Superstars of Swift. I'm Professor John Gallagher, and in this lesson we'll continue our image work on the Snacktacular app by adding the ability to click an image in our horizontal scroll view so that we can load it in a full screen view, seeing the full image. And if the user has entered the image, we'll allow them to modify the description on their own image, otherwise we'll make the image view only. Let the big learning continue. Let's start in our spot detail photo scroll view. This is the view that contains our horizontal scroll view. And when an image is tapped, we'll show the photo view we created as a sheet. And from past experience, we know that to display a sheet, we need a state variable to indicate that we should show the sheet. So up top, we'll create @statePrivateVar showPhotoViewerView and set this equal to false. And we have a little bit of data type gymnastics we have to do as well. If you remember, back in our work with the photo view, we passed our image in as a UI image type. That's what we converted the selected image to after we selected it from the Photos Picker view. Remember, it came back as a Photos Picker image, and we converted it to a UI image. Well, in this view, our image is actually a SwiftUI image view, not a UI image. Those are two different types, so we need to convert the SwiftUI image view into a UI image and then pass the UI image to the photo view. And I know this is a bit convoluted. My guess is that in a future update of SwiftUI, we're going to be able to do more with SwiftUI's image view. We won't need this intermediate UI image step, but for now, we'll create @statePrivateVar UI image. That's with lowercase UI followed by capital I image, and we'll set this equal to UI image. That's with the first three letters in capitals, open and close parens. And this creates an empty UI image with nothing in it. It's not nil. It's sort of like the UI image equivalent of an empty string. Then let's add a tap gesture to our async image. So below the modifiers for the async image, we'll add .onTap gesture. And we need to do this under the async image because we're going to be grabbing the image, press return in the onPerform to get the trailing closure. I'll refresh my live preview so that we can see things are working properly with no errors. And inside here, we need to convert our image, this constant here that we get from async image, into the UI image and pass this local constant, that's what the image is, into a view-wide, more global variable. That's what we just created with the UI image that we can access outside of this closure. Now again, to make this happen, we need to convert the SwiftUI image view, that's what image is, to a UI image. We have to jump through a bit of a hoop to get this to happen, but it's just 2 lines of repeatable code. First, we're going to create something called an image renderer that can create an image from a SwiftUI view. And we do this with letRenderer equal image renderer, and we're going to choose the option with content. And in the content, we just pass in the name of the view that we want to convert into something else. So we're going to pass in image with a lowercase I. That's this guy right here. Now, once we have this image renderer set up with the image inside of it, that's what renderer is, we can access its UI image property to convert it to a UI image like this. We'll say UI image equals renderer.UI image. And before I press return, notice that there's a question mark in here at the end of UI image, so the return value could potentially be nil. We'll deal with this with nil coalescing by adding double question mark, UI image, open and close parens. Then once we have our image, we can toggle the sheet on with showPhotoViewerView.toggle. And then I'll add the sheet down below the scroll view. So I'm going to code fold the scroll view so I can see where its modifiers are. And below the modifiers for the scroll view, I'll also add .sheet, selecting the option with isPresented and content. The isPresented is a binding variable, so we say $showPhotoViewer, tab and press return for the closure for content. And quick apology for the default image shift in here. I swapped this out for another image when I mistakenly thought that the original image was squished. As mentioned in the last lesson, the reason that it's squished is I incorrectly reversed my frame and scale to fill modifiers. You have likely already fixed this. I'll fix it by the end of the lesson. But now back to our regularly scheduled program. Now there's another thing to notice. I'll pause the video so that you can see this. This progress view that occupies the placeholder spot in async image isn't centered where the image is. It's pushed over to the left. This is an easy fix. We simply have to specify a frame that's the same size as the image we're eventually going to put in here. So I'll unfold the code, and under progress view, I'll add a .frame modifier, passing in width and height of 80 each. Then I'll pause after pressing the live preview play button, and you can see that the progress view swirly is now centered where the image is about to be rendered. Nice! Just another way to tidy up our UI. And now back down in our sheet modifier, we'll call the photo view, passing in the UI image and our spot. And if we double click on an image in the preview, we can see that we launched the sheet, which is great. We don't see any image in here because we're using placeholder data, not passing in usable values to the live preview. But if we build and run, hammer time, look at Pino's Pizza, and click an image, and we see it full screen. Nice. Now, there are a few more things that we want to do on this screen as well. We want to make sure that our description is passed in. So to get this, we need to be sure that we pass in the full photo struct that is associated with the image that we clicked on. And we should only have the Save button in the navigation bar if the user is looking at an image that they've added. Otherwise, we should disable the description so that it can't be changed, and we should change the Cancel Save navigation bar to one that just has a Done button there. So let's do that. And in order to test this, I took a look at all of the photos that I've entered in at this point, and they were all entered by the same user. So I want to log out and log in as a different user. I was logged in as user A, now I'm logged in as user John.Gallagher, and later on we'll add images from this user as well. So now let's make those UI modifications we just mentioned in the photo view. So we'll head to the photo view file now, and we're going to check the current user's email against the email that was saved for the photo that was being viewed. And in order to check the email of the user that's logged in, we need to use the auth object from Firebase Authentication, and to access that, we need to import Firebase up top. And now that this is imported, I'll refresh my live preview so that I can make sure that I have no errors. And in my toolbar modifier down here, I'm going to enter a conditional after the .toolbar and before the first toolbar item. I'll say if capital A auth, code completion adds parens after this, current user email double equals photo.reviewer open and close curlies. And there'll be an else clause, open and close curlies. And in the first curlies, I'll add a comment, image was posted by current user, and I'll add a comment to the else clause saying image was not posted by current user. Then I can highlight these two toolbar items down here, make sure that you've got the closing curly selected properly, cut them out with Command X, and paste them into the if clause above with Command V. Then in the else clause, I'll add a new toolbar item with placement and content, holding down Option so that I get both parameters when I press return, and the placement is going to be .automatic, tab over to the content closure, press return here, and between the curlies, I'll add a button view with the title and action. The title is just going to be the string done, and the action is going to be just dismiss with open and close parens following it. Now, another thing I want to do is I want to disable the description text field if the user is looking at an image that they did not post, because they should not be able to change the description on somebody else's image. So below the description text field, we'll add a .disabled modifier, and this wants a bool, so we'll pass in that same authentication check, auth.current-user.email double equals photo.reviewer, but this is going to disable the text field if it's true, and we want to disable the text field if it's not true. So if the user is not looking at an image that they posted, so if it's looking at somebody else's image, then we should disable this. So we can do this a couple of ways. One is that we can change the double equal to exclamation point equal for not equal, or I can highlight this entire equality check and I can press open parens, which puts parens around both of these things, and put an exclamation point in front of the parens. That's going to negate the result. So you can use either one of those techniques, whichever one you find is most readable. I think you'd find most developers use the exclamation point for not in front of this expression. Now, another thing we're going to do is we need to pass in a photo. But if we look up here at our property declarations, we have a photo declared as a state variable. Now we want to change this to a binding variable because we're going to be passing it in now. So we'll change @state here to @binding, and instead of making it equal to an initialized photo struct, we'll just say :P photo. So Xcode knows we're going to be passing in a photo struct whenever we call this photo view. So this line now reads @binding var photo : P photo. Now doing this creates a bunch of errors because we need to correct every place where we call photo view and now pass in a photo. So let's make sure that we change the preview provider first. Down here I'm going to highlight and copy the two parameters at the end. I'm going to continue to use those. Then I'll backspace and re-enter the photo view in the preview provider. Now I've got all three values in here that I need to pass in. I'm going to highlight over the UI image and spot and paste in the values that I just copied. I still want those to be in here. But for the value, now Xcode reminds us this is a binding value. And remember, binding values in the preview provider should be constants. So I'll say .constant, and I'll just pass in a P photo with parens after it to initialize an empty photo struct. And if we look up here in the error circle that's in the above right above the live preview, I can see the other parts of my project that have errors. So I'm going to jump to spot detail view. And ugh, so the error that I'm getting here is not very useful. I get this error on the line that starts the body property, which is not where the error is. It says the compiler is unable to check the expression in reasonable time. This shouldn't be showing up. It's just a quirk in Xcode. It might go away if we refactored our code, but I'm not sure. I actually think it's a bug in Xcode. Now Xcode is properly telling me that there is an error on this page, but I know where it is. It's where we call the photo view. Now if we're passing a photo into the photo view call, we first need to make sure that we create a photo. So I'll do that up top with my other property. So under where I create a spot, I'll enter @state var new photo equals P photo, open and close parens. That'll create a new empty photo struct. And as I think about this, I can actually make new photo private in here. I can't do that with spot because this is being passed in from the prior view, and spot also changes. So that needs to have the state property wrapper in front of it, but it can't be private. It's got to be visible to other views. But you can put private in front of var for the new photo if you'd like. And then I'm going to jump to where I call photo view. So I'll just Command F to bring up the find box, and I'll type in photo view in the box and press return. I jump down to my sheet modifier that's called with show photo view sheet, and I'll highlight and cut out the two values that I'm passing in. Remember, just like the preview provider on the prior page, I'm going to still pass those in, but I'm going to backspace over the photo view call and retype this in. And this is something that I noticed in the previous lesson as well. Xcode is showing some squirreliness in here. It's telling me for some reason that I need to pass in spot VM. I don't. That's an environment object that I've set up properly. It also tells me that I need to pass in the dismiss variable. I don't need to do that. Dismiss was set up as an environment variable properly as well. So this is just a bug in Xcode. I'm going to press return to enter the photo view initializer. I can delete this first spot VM variable in here. I don't want that. And I'm going to highlight the last three arguments in here. Notice that I've also highlighted the dismiss value in here. I don't need that. So I'm going to paste over and I get the two parameters that I copied earlier. I want those. And for the photo, curiously, Xcode also is not picking up that this is a bound variable property. And it's really unfortunate that code completion in Xcode isn't showing this properly, but I do need to have a $sign in here. This is a binding property, and we'll follow that with new photo. Now there's one more thing that I need to do here, and it actually wasn't obvious to me until I performed some user testing. So I need to head up here to the onChange modifier that's called when a photo is selected in the photo picker. And before I show an alert or show the photo view sheet, I need to set new photo equal to P photo with parens after it. So that's going to reinitialize my new photo. And in the comment after this, I'm going to say, clears out the contents if you add more than one photo in a row for this spot. Now, if you didn't add this line here and you added a photo, added a description with that photo, saved it, returned to this spot detail view page, and then clicked on the photo button to add a second photo, when that showed up, it would use a description that was associated with the first photo that you typed in. If you want, you can leave this out and try that out to see what happens. That's definitely what happened. It wouldn't result in an error. It would just give you a description from the previous photo that you added. So by setting new photo equal to an empty photo struct, that just clears things out before you enter your new photo. Now we're still getting an error. We can see the little error circle in the upper right-hand corner of the live preview. So I'll click on that and that will jump me to the spot detail photo scroll view. Now this correctly points out the troublesome line where we need to modify the call to photo view here as well. Once again, I'll highlight the last two input values and cut these out so that I can paste them into my new call. I'll backspace over photo view. When I retype photo view on this page, Xcode is here properly showing me the values highlighted that it needs to pass in. So I'll press return to accept this. I'll highlight and paste over the last two values so that I'm now passing in the UI image and the spot. And now here we need to pass in a photo, but we don't yet have a photo in this view. So up top, let's create a new property. @state var, we'll call this selected photo. And we'll start by setting this equal to P photo with parentheses to initialize it as an empty photo. And as I'm looking at this, as I record the voiceover, I can see that I should have added private in here as well. It's not going to create an error, but it's nice to hide this variable from any other views if it's not being used in any views outside of this one. You're welcome to make this private if you'd like. But now what we want to do is we want to update this selected photo with the photo that was selected, meaning the element of the photos array that was tapped on, and we'll detect that in our tap gesture. So take a look inside the tap gesture down here. Remember, the photo value that we get in here is passed in from the variable photos. This is used inside this for each statement, but the singular photo only has scope within the for each's curlies. So we can't use this photo outside of the curlies, but remember, in the sheet modifier, which is outside of these curlies, that's where we want to pass in the correctly selected photo value when we call our photo view. So sometime before we show photo view toggle, I'm going to set selected photo equal to photo. So now I have all the data from this local photo here into this selected photo This will be available throughout the view, so when I use this value to pass it into the photo view, I'm going to have the photo description, the reviewer who posted it, and the date it was posted on. So now let's head down to our sheet, and in our photo view call, we can pass in our selected photo, but remember this has got to be a binding value, so we'll say $selected photo. The fact that live preview shows suggests we have no error, so let's build and run. Can't touch this, hammer time, no errors. And remember, I'm logged in as John.Gallagher, the user that didn't enter most of these images. So if I head to Pino's Pizza and click on the sad pizza, I see that this was posted by a user named A. The date it was posted was properly passed over. I can't change the description, and my navigation bar shows just the done button. Just what I want. Now that'll be the case for all of these images since they were all entered by user A, and since I'm logged in as user John.Gallagher, I'm going to add a new photo as this user. Oh, why don't I select the pepperoni pizza here? The text view below the description correctly says that I am John.Gallagher. I'll add a description, pep time, and I'll save this. And now when I click on the same image, I can see that now I see a cancel and save button in the navigation bar, not just the done button. The posting information is correct as well. And since I'm logged in as the posting user, I can edit the description if I want. Now there's actually something that we need to do before we can save the work properly. And before we do that, if you want to just confirm, we can look at another image that we haven't entered. We can see that we do get the done button here. We can't modify the description. So the one additional thing that we need to do if we want to update the photo properly is we need to make a change to the save image method in the spot view model. So head over there right now. And in the spot image function, you see where we create this local photo name constant and set it to a UUID? Well, that's going to work great if we have a new photo. But now we also want to be able to update an existing photo. And if we do that, we want to keep the existing photo name that was passed in up here in this photo variable. If we didn't keep the existing photo name, that's the photo ID of this photo variable, then what we'd be doing is we'd be creating brand new photo documents every time we updated an existing photo document. And we don't want to do that. So to deal with the possibility of resaving an existing photo, I'm going to change let photo name to var photo name. Then below this, I'll check to see if photo.id does not equal to equals nil, open and close curlies. And if this is true, then the photo that I passed in already has an ID. So I shouldn't use the UUID that I created up here. Instead, in the curlies, I'll say photo name equals photo.id. And I can force unwrap this because it won't be nil. Remember, we checked to see that it's not equal to nil up here, so force unwrapping will never fail. So force unwrapping is this exclamation point after the ID. And I'll put a comment in here to remind us, if I have photo.id, use this as the photo's name. This happens if we're updating an existing photo's description information. It'll resave the photo, but that's okay. It'll just overwrite the existing one, but it'll use any new info that we passed in. And looking through the rest of this code, I see that we need no additional changes, so we can build and run. And let's add some new photos in Shake Shack. So if I click on this image here, the current user didn't enter it, so modifications can't be made. We have a done button up here, not cancel and save, and I can't change the description. But let's go back and add a new image. And I'll add this image of Basketball Shack, and I'll set the description to say, I saw Shaq at the Shack, and we'll save. The Shack Daddy's image shows up right here. And let's add another photo. How about this one? It's the Shack dog. We'll save it. And we'll head back and we'll click on Basketball Shack's image, and we can modify the description and add lunch on him. Now, true story, Shaq actually briefly played for the Boston Celtics, our basketball team, and when he was checking out the area, he headed over to Mr. Bartley's Burgers in Cambridge, and when he showed up, he bought everybody burgers. So this is actually based on a true story, although it didn't happen at Shake Shack. Anyway, we'll save this here. We don't get any errors in the console. We can click back on the Shack dog just to clear out what was previously in the photo view, and we can cancel and head back to Shack, and we see the description was changed to lunch on him, so we confirm updates are working properly. And you can click around here to make sure that things continue to work, but now, as promised, I'm also going to fix the code so that I don't have the squished image. I'm going to head over to Spot Detail Photo Scroll View, and in my async image modifiers, I'm going to swap my scale to fill so it's above the frame. And by the way, there's another way that you can write this line as well. You can say dot aspect ratio, and for the content you can pass in dot fill. It does the same thing as scaled to fill. That'll fix the distortion. So I'll build and run. The moral of the story there is always make sure that you do your scaling before you fit things into a new frame. And if we take a look at the P-nose images, we can see now that none of these are distorted. We do clip any of the image that would spill outside of the frame, but that's exactly what we want. But if you explore in your app and tap any image, you'll see that entire image not clipped and not distorted is displayed in your photo view. So feel free to continue to test your app, but hopefully you'll find your image saving and loading is now working great. So I hope you feel good about acquiring advanced skills. There's definitely a lot of contingencies that we need to deal with when we're building apps, but such is the case as an app developer, and the more experience you get, the better you'll be at recognizing potential issues and dealing with them in your code. It also underscores why it's really important to continue to test lots of different ways your app might be used. Now, we've still got more goodness to come as we finish off this app, so until next time, continue to hack.